Okay, we're on. Welcome. It is Saturday morning, June 18th on the East Coast. We got about 11:30 a.m. It's a nice, cooler, breezy summer day here in Wilmington, and it's say about 72, 73 degrees right now. The wind's picked up, the sun's hiding behind the clouds, and it's just a very, very calm morning here. So perfect day to sit inside and have a podcast and talk about some exciting travel things. This week, I actually want to get into talking about travel negotiating. Now, I know a few weeks ago we talked about travel deals. This week, I want to talk about travel negotiating. So I hope you have your coffee. I hope you're ready to go. And I hope you're ready to listen to the next 15 to 20 minutes of what I have to say about my findings in Florida last week. So let me preface this topic by saying that I do believe that, like most people, travel should be a very fun experience. It's supposed to be uplifting, unless you're doing it for work, in which case it can still be exciting because you're often going somewhere new, you're seeing different things. And anytime we're taken out of our common environment and put someplace different, of course, it does have a tendency to make some people nervous, but most people find that to be exciting, thrilling, challenging, and there's just something about it. So even if they don't have a great time, many times you'll see someone will continue to talk about that trip, or they'll reference back to that trip, even if it wasn't the most enjoyable. So we start thinking about what could it be about travel that's not enjoyable. Now let's just take work off the table. Work's a completely different animal. If you're traveling somewhere for work and that becomes the entire focus of your trip, that is a completely different story. Okay, that's something else to talk about. And there's other ways that we can work on maybe making the experience more enjoyable. But when it comes to leisure travel, nobody ever plans a trip to Hawaii or Florida or the mountains, the beach, wherever, with the intent of not enjoying any part of that. We know there's going to be stress. And many times that stress can come in the form of not having your own kitchen, having a grocery shop to buy a lot of things, maybe not having a refrigerator available to you, so you end up eating out most of the time, and that can make people feel like they're not eating on the healthy side of things, or maybe they're spending too much money. Not having their own vehicle, maybe having to pay for parking. There's so many different ways that stress can come about on a trip. And I know I've just traveled last week to Florida. Now I do travel often, usually every month I'm gone somewhere. Typically it's Europe, but in Florida last week, I was trying out a lot of different things, and it was supposed to be a very leisurely vacation for a week with my son down in Florida. And I wanted to test a few processes while I was down there. So what I ended up doing was not booking things in advance and seeing what I could negotiate at the last minute. Now, there was a lot of different things that I had tried, and that went from everything from the rental car to, the tickets at Busch Gardens and how I acquired them, and also even hotel deals. So other than the rental car, which I did book in advance, I still wanted to negotiate a few things. And honestly, even with the rental car, I didn't push it. I did negotiate a few things out of that, but I learned a lot in the process. And I think that's very important to share, is that your trip can almost be made into this adventure if you look at it a completely different way. And that is in the exciting negotiating portion of the way. Now, I admit, I understand some people don't want that stress, and I run a planning business, a travel planning business. So for me to tell people that it's probably a good idea to not book, it's not the greatest idea on my part, because what I want to do is I want to sell a planning process. I want to sell people on the idea that planning is beneficial to them. But what I would say is, if you can afford it, if you can deal with the stress of the moment, and ultimately just realize, even if you never book a hotel room, you're going to find a hotel room. And hotel rooms are not substantially cheaper if you get them a week in advance, or 2 weeks in advance, a month in advance. That you'll always get deals on travel locations, car rentals, anything like that. So, instead of just kind of beating around the bush, let me just kind of get into it. So what I did was I planned a flight where I would go down to Orlando, Now, I wanted to start off in Orlando, go visit my mom up in the Ocala area, head down to Tampa for a day in Busch Gardens, from there to Sarasota to Naples departing out of Miami with a day of touring around Miami. So what I did was this time I was trying to test the process and check out a few things. Now, another little preface that I will give you is that I am a member of the military, so I do have the military ID card available to me. And I have to admit, yes, it is very beneficial when it comes to certain things. You know, having a military ID card entitles you to certain benefits. A lot of companies will give you certain discounts on those. Airlines will give you, you know, free baggage, preferred seating, etc. So what I want to do today, instead of focusing on all that, because we will get into that at some point, what I want to talk about is my experience with hotel bookings. Now, we will talk about rental cars in the future, and I'll probably give a little bit of information about that here. But what I really want to talk about is the hotel booking and how that process went. So, you know, the first few days were nothing. I stayed with family, but once I left family and started heading south, I planned on staying in Sarasota. That was going to be my first stop. So what I wanted to do was I began taking a look at the hotels in the area. Now, what I typically do is I'll go to Planiversity.com, I'll pull up Booking.com, which is our partner, and then I'll start searching for hotels in the area and see what's available. Obviously, I want something that is nice. I want something that's got good reviews, and I want something, preferably if I'm in Florida, in a beach town close to the beach, or at least not far from the beach. Okay. A little sip of coffee there. So what I ended up coming up with was the Hyatt. Okay, now just excuse me. I'm kind of looking at two screens at once. So I'm looking at the Hyatt here, and keep this in mind. So I'm looking at a price right now for the Hyatt for the same type of hotel room that I was booking. You know, that'd be an adult and a child. And I'm looking at it, and right now the price is $160. Now, when I was down there, it was $235 for the night. And what you need to understand is prices with hotel rooms, just like prices with rental cars, just like prices with flights, they fluctuate. They're like the market. They go up, they go down. It depends on whether or not we're looking at a holiday weekend in the United States. It depends on a lot of variables, actually. So what you want to do is, obviously, if you can travel at a low point, that's great. If you can book at a low point, that's even better. What I did was I happened to come in. Again, I didn't have a plan. I just said, I'm just going to find a nice hotel. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to see if I can negotiate the price. And 2 out of the 3 nights, it was actually possible to do. And the first night, yeah, it didn't really work out so well. And I'll tell you why. So, spent the day in Busch Gardens, ended up heading down to Sarasota that afternoon from Tampa. And I get to the hotel probably around 8:30 at night. Now, mind you, again, I hadn't booked anything in advance. So I walk in and I begin talking to the front desk clerk. Now, mind you, I don't have a script. I'm not going by anything special. I don't go in there waving a business card around saying, hey, I own a travel company. Can you do this for me? It's nothing like that. What I want to do is I want to appear as just an average person, just going in there to see what they can do for me to give me a best rate. So I go in there, and the first thing I wanted to ask the individual, now this is just based on conversations I've had with people who work in the hospitality industry. So I go up to the counter, I say to the guy, can you tell me what your occupancy rate is? Now, occupancy can mean a lot of different things, okay? But what it typically means is the more occupied rooms are at that hotel, the less likely the hotel is going to be to negotiate with you on price. You know, maybe they can come down a little bit, but typically if they're pretty full and they have only a few rooms, there's no reason for them to drop a significant amount off their room price just to accommodate you. Now, if we start talking about a 50% occupancy rate, that is a completely different story. Okay, because now they have half of their rooms just empty, not bringing in any money whatsoever, and they have to do something about that, or they want to do something about that, but there's got to be a win on both sides. You know, there's got to be a victory for you, there's got to be a victory for them, so you have to find the middle ground, which means you can't be ridiculous in what you want to negotiate. But anyway, let's come back to the Hyatt. So I go to the Hyatt. Now, this is specifically the Hyatt Place Sarasota in Lakewood Ranch. It's nothing special. It certainly wasn't near the beach. I think it was actually about 8 miles from the beach. I go there and I walk up to the desk and I asked the gentleman, I said, hey, can you tell me what your occupancy rate is? And he said, yes, we're about 75%. Okay. So already I know, based on him saying that, it's going to be an uphill challenge. Okay. So I ask him, look, I'm trying to do something here and I want to know if you'll just entertain me, but I want to see what you can do for me as far as price goes. Now, he was willing to negotiate with me just a little bit, but that was only because I already had a military discount. Okay, so I will mention that even though I'm trying to negotiate with them, I'm using existing membership that I have or an existing affiliation that I have to get me what benefit I can. So obviously, if you're in the military, that's great. A lot of times places will discount for law enforcement or first responders. AAA is a great one. If you have a AAA account, they offer specific discounts for AAA members. The same thing with AARP, with students. There's just a list of different affiliations or memberships that you can be a part of that will actually give you a discount or work towards giving you a discount. At the very least, it gives you a little bit of negotiating power. Okay, so I start talking to the gentleman, 75% occupancy, not looking good right there. So I said, look, what can you do for me as far as price? And he barely does anything. And I'm not kidding. When I say anything, he came down just a little bit. And that was only because of my military rate. So I said, hey, look, I believe that you're able to give me a better rate than this. And he said, now look, this is coming from him. He said, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but we have at the Hyatt what's called a best rate guarantee. So if you can go out and you can find a hotel that offers you the same exact accommodation for a cheaper price, you contact this line and they will not only discount you back that money, but they'll add an additional 20% on top of that. So I'm like, okay, that's fine, you know. So for me, in my eyes at that point, I think, okay, I've got a victory on my hands. I can just pay what the guy wants right now. And then after that, I go straight to corporate and I try and recoup that money right there by explaining the situation to them. So first thing I do was, obviously I paid, I take the room. The next day I started doing a little bit of research. Now, I actually did go on Hyatt's website to research this best rate guarantee. And of course, it does exist. There is terms and conditions there. Everything's right there for you to read, but there is some confusion there, and I'll explain that. What I had to do was, it says that if you do find a better rate, you need to claim that rate within 24 hours. Okay, so 24 hours, right? I sign in or I check in. I've got this 24-hour window now. It's my bubble. I've got to make a move in that time. If I exceed that 24 hours, there's nothing. I know at that point it's in black and white. It's right there in the text. I'm not going to have a chance right here to recover that. And that's fine. The company is given its circumstances and I have to abide by that if I want to play the game. So what I do was, within that 24 hours, I call the next day and I say, hey, I'm staying here. Here's my confirmation number. I have actually found some better rates in the area and I would like to talk about your best rate guarantee. So she says, well, it looks like you've already checked in. Of course, I said, yeah, I'm already checked in. But, you know, I checked in, I booked a hotel room at the front desk, and now I'm within 24 hours contacting you. And she says to me, there's nothing I can do for you because you're already checked in. Once you check in, there's nothing we can do. So, you know, I'm not one to argue with people. I typically think, okay, maybe this person doesn't know as much as someone else. Maybe I need to speak to a supervisor. Maybe they're new. Who knows? So I politely start going through the terms and conditions with her, and I explain to her, there's nothing in your terms and conditions that says anything about within 24 hours on the backside of checking in. She says, sir, it just kind of makes sense. If you book something, you find a better rate before you check in, contact us and we'll give you that discount back plus the 20%, you know? So I say, okay, there's absolutely nothing you can do at this point. She says, no. Now I just figure, okay, well, I'll try again at a different point. This doesn't seem like a fair process, but before I give up and start thinking, well, I've lost that money, I'm going to test the process again now doing what she said. So now applying it. So again, I did go to the Hyatt website. I did start digging through the process and digging through the terms and conditions. And there's nothing that said it had to be within 24 hours of the front side of you checking in. So I guess what that means is if you book with them, now keep in mind you have to direct Hyatt.com or you have to go to the front desk. You have to book one of those two ways. If you do those before you check in, is what she's saying, you need to actually go or call them with that better rate that you found and negotiate the process then. So I think, okay, it's not a big deal. That's what I'm going to try. So depart Sarasota. I paid the full price for the hotel room plus the little discount that I got for being military. And then I head south to Naples. Now, when I get to Naples, I encounter a Hilton there. So I do plan on coming back to the Hyatt, but I found a Hilton right there. Now, again, I don't have any reservation. What I do is I pull up to the Hilton. Beautiful Hilton. As a matter of fact, I'm on booking.com right now. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. So we'll just say here, Naples, Florida. Same circumstances, one adult, one child. Let's go ahead and search the room and see if it gives us the Hilton. Now, I will say that the Hilton was beautiful. I mean, a lot of hotels that I've stayed in Naples itself, which is a gorgeous town, but this was absolutely beautiful. So the Hilton here, 4 stars, hands down. I mean, I would give it 4 stars as well. 4 stars. Today it's averaging $310 for the night. Beautiful hotel, beautiful rooms, very clean, very, very courteous staff. So I go there. Again, I have absolutely no booking in advance. I've booked nothing. I just plan on going in there and trying to negotiate a price. Now, mind you, it does say right now that the price of the room would be $309 for the night. That's not what I was quoted at the front desk when I tried to check in. So I go there and I walk up to the woman, say, hi, I don't have a reservation, but I wonder if you could do me a favor and tell me what your occupancy rate is right now. She says, okay, let me check, blah, blah, blah. She goes into the system. She has a 65% occupancy. And so she says, we have plenty of rooms. I said, okay, I wonder if you'll indulge me. I am trying to see what I can do about negotiating with you to get a better price on the room. So they wanted $240 for the night, that night, not $310 like it is right now. So they wanted $240. And immediately she gives me I'll give the room to you for $200 for the night. Now, all right, so some would call that a victory. That's $40 off instantly for only just saying a few words. Okay, I've just saved myself $40. That's enough to feed me and my son for the night. So I go ahead and I tell her, I think you can do better than that. And she says, well, that's the best manager rate that I can give you for right now. And then she does say, well, what else are you a part of? Anything else that I could maybe apply a discount to? So I say, yeah, I have this. I have AAA, I have military affiliation. She says, okay, can I just see your ID card? Pull up my ID, give it to her. And next thing you know, I'm down to $135 for the room for the night. Now, okay, granted, I did apply a military membership discount, and I don't think she applied anything with the AAA, but right there, I saved $65 for being part of one affiliation, $40 for just talking. So there you go. A room goes from $240 a night now down to $135 a night, and that's with taxes. That's amazing. I've just saved $100 for what? Just being a part of some group and speaking about something or asking a question. That was fantastic. Had a great night. Loved the Hilton in Naples, Florida. Naples, beautiful town. Hilton's a gorgeous hotel. And now I'm on to my third experience. I depart Naples in the morning and I head over to Miami, across the southern tip of Florida. I get there. Again, now I'm searching for a Hyatt, specifically searching for a Hyatt because I want to test the process, right? Sip of coffee again. Now, I want to test the process again. I'm not giving up on this. I've heard what the woman said. I've read through the terms and conditions. I don't think I'm confused about anything. So what I do is I go ahead and I go to hide.com, just like it says in the directions. You go to hide.com, or you can do it through the front desk, but you cannot book through like Expedia or booking.com, something like this. So I go ahead and I book on hide.com a room. It's $235 for the night in Coral Gables, Florida, which is just south of Miami. And what I do is I pull up outside the hotel, I get on the phone, and I call the best rate guarantee. So you can send all of your details over through the computer. You can email it over, or you can just call them directly. What I chose to do is I prefer getting a person on the phone. For me, that's a lot easier. And obviously your negotiating power is a lot better when it comes to speaking with a person versus dealing with a computer. So, and pardon me, I say so a lot. That is my preferred transition. I pull up outside the hotel, I get on the phone, and right now I've got a room for $235 for the night. I start talking to the woman. I say, hey, I've got this reservation. I have not checked in yet. I found a room in town that's got a much better rate than you guys, and it's got the same exact accommodations, and I'd like to talk about your best rate guarantee. She says, okay, where did you find this? Did you find it on Expedia booking? And I said, it's on Expedia. It's this hotel, and the room is $110 for the night. Now that's a huge stretch. We're going from 235 down to 110, and I'm expecting them to match the price and give me 20% on top of that. And what does she do? Shoots me down immediately. So not only was I disappointed once, I'm disappointed twice. And she says, sir, I think somebody might have given you the wrong idea about the program. The program isn't if you can find a better rate. The program is if you can find a better rate for a Hyatt room using one of the other travel booking portals like Expedia, booking.com, etc. I did not understand it that way. The man at the front desk at the Hyatt in Sarasota did not explain it that way. I did not deduce that from reading through the terms and conditions. It said if you can find a better rate, best rate guarantee, right? So I'm a little disappointed at this point, because now I'm thinking, oh great, now I found another room that I'm going to spend more than I want for, but I'm testing the process, of course, and so I'm out here for a reason. And she says, well, what else are you a part of that I could maybe apply a discount? And we start going back and forth. Of course, again, I mentioned the AAA, I mentioned military membership, and of course they do have discounts for certain things. But then she was also willing to negotiate with me on the price of the room on top of that. So now, you're not going to believe this, I actually go from being in a $235 a night room in Coral Gables, Florida, to now I'm paying $105 for the night for that same room. Again, beautiful room, beautiful hotel, very close to everything. I could not tell you how satisfied I was with that. So there you go. I meant to try a process. I went down there with the intent of not only vacationing, but also testing certain things. And now I just want to kind of finish up with that. I do have my receipts right here, but I don't think you need to see those. What the most important takeaway from this is, everything is a negotiating process. If you're willing to have fun and you're willing to try certain things, you can actually get somewhere. I don't care if this is for rental cars. One of the things that the rental car agency was able to do for me was throw in a child booster seat for free. So I go there, I've got my booking. The guy gives me a favorable booking for BMW SUV. And he says, I can give it to you at this price. Now, the price was already pretty good that he offered me. And then I told him, well, I need this. And a child booster seat is about $15 extra a day. It's kind of ridiculous. That's a lot just for a booster seat. I can almost go out and just buy one and then carry it with me when I go back to Delaware. But, one of the things he did was he was willing to negotiate throwing it in there for free. So everything is up for negotiation. You have to understand that. If you go down to check into a hotel and you've already made that commitment online, it's not too late at that point. You can still negotiate right there at the front desk. You could do the same thing with a rental car. You can do the same thing with certain other agencies. Flights are a little bit difficult, obviously, because everything's very rigid in the flight world. If you're going to negotiate anything when it comes to flights, you need to try and do that on the front side. But on the back side, you don't really have much of a choice. But when it comes to tours, rental cars, especially hotel rooms, these companies have these fleets of rental cars. They have these hotel rooms. For them to leave something stagnant, such as a rental car sitting there, does not benefit them. You know, a sitting rental car is like a ship on the dock. It makes them no money. So if they can get their fleet out there and driving, you know, this is a maintenance thing too. You want to get the wheels turning. You want to get the engine components going, because a car that just sits is a car that starts building mechanical problems, right? Same thing with hotel rooms. An empty hotel room brings 0% in for them. So instead of getting 50% of something, now they're getting 100% of nothing. So it benefits the hotel room, especially when their occupancy rate is somewhere around 50%. It benefits the hotel to go ahead and negotiate with you on a price. Now, you won't get the same level of luck with every hotel. You might go to a mom and pop hotel. You might go to a, bed and breakfast where it's out in the country. They don't believe in negotiating. The rooms are flat, 175 for the night, and that's all there is to it. Now, you got to kind of take that with a grain of salt, because that's just the way it is. They're not a corporation. They don't have the same flexibility. A corporation can kind of absorb costs and losses, right? Especially larger ones. So if you go to a Hilton, you go to a Hyatt, you go to any of these large name hotels, and you say, hey, look, this is what I'm looking for. I've got a budget in mind. I want to try and get as close to that budget as possible. What can you do for me? Many times you will see that just asking, you'll save money right there. And if that doesn't work, if you're on your way to a hotel and you say, hey, look, I haven't booked anything yet, but I'm going to try and get at this hotel, call around. If you're not committed to a hotel, call around. Find out who's got lower occupancy rates. If you got the Hilton that's got a 75% occupancy rate, and then you get the Hyatt that's at a 65%, your chances are probably better with the Hyatt, and both are fantastic hotels. So I would say just test the process, make some calls. It's really not that big of a time investment. If you're driving anyways, jump on the phone. Most of these cars now have Bluetooth enabled, so you can actually sit there, have a conversation while you're driving, still be very engaged and paying attention to the road, but working as you work your way toward it. So that's all I got to say. I hope this helps. I hope all of you go out there and you test the process. I did say 15 to 20 minutes, and now I'm at 27 minutes, so I do apologize for that, but it's very important information, right? Again, test the process. Understand you have negotiating power. Don't just feel like travel has to be this very rigid thing that you make this plan and all of a sudden you get there and now you're frustrated because you're paying so much money, you're eating terrible. There are ways to really, really spruce things up and get exciting with this. And honestly, it's almost a high. It's kind of like, you're chasing those endorphins. When you go into a hotel and you say, I have this room and I booked it for $250 a night, but I want to see what you can do for me. Next thing you know, you're walking out paying 50% of that. It's a rush. It's a rush. You get very excited by that process, and you're like, wow, I just saved all this money. I can do this tonight. Now I can do that. Maybe I can afford to go get something a little bit more expensive to eat. Who knows? It's yours, or you just save that money. But understand that you do have negotiating power. It's just most people don't ask for it. And that's all I'll leave you with. So happy weekend. Have a great week. We'll be back soon with another episode. Thank you. Take care.